All right, welcome in everyone. It's another episode of the Watchlist with your host Kevin Howell, the one-eyed scout, where we spotlight players that you need to know. Today we're talking to the Rio Grande Valley stud and locking in with guard who's got bounce, grit, and that chip on his shoulder mentality. Jordan Bustamante, Edinburgh Vela Senior, and one of the toughest defenders we've come across. Hey Jordan, welcome to the watch list, man. We've seen film, we've seen you in person, the athleticism and energy. Let's get right into it, man.
So,
How would you describe your game to a college coach who's never seen you play?
uh, I would describe my game as tough, gritty, and smart. Definitely, just I'm always looking for the best play possible, whether that's myself, scoring the ball, or if that's setting it up for a hockey assist or an assist. But
Mm.
that's on the offensive side. But just my game in general, just tough, gritty, and smart for sure. I'm gonna get my all on there on the court no matter what.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll give you, man. You play hard and you play intense, and you really move your feet on defense. You
Sir.
know, you're listed at 6'2", but what really stands out is your explosiveness. Where do you think that bounce comes from?
Uh, I would say half of my bounce came from my dad because he used to hoop back in the day, and he's always telling me all these stories about how he used to dunk the ball and how he was like the highest flyer all the time in the park and stuff. So I would definitely say my genetics, my pops, and then the other half was just me working extremely hard. Me and my dad. We invested in a squat rack and the hex bar. So a lot of the weight room stuff, a lot of
Mhm.
the plyometric stuff that started about like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So definitely, I would just say I would give that credit to my dad for the genetics and then just helping me get to here where I am through our work.
Yeah, we laughed, the first time I saw you dunk the ball, because I said I didn't know you were that explosive,
Yeah,
and and you and you I think you said something along the lines of I don't let everybody know or something along that.
yeah,
So I always laugh with your quick wit. You always got something to say. But but I've seen you take on some serious tough guards in the region. What's your mindset defensively when you're locking somebody up?
I just, I try to play as physical as I can, without fouling. I definitely go into the game, especially if it's, a well-known guard, especially if I know that they are, well regarded in a certain city or something. I definitely take it as an opportunity for myself to get seen. So I definitely just try to go in the game, be as aggressive as I can, try to be a pest, man. I feel like, I can always do better. I can always be more aggressive. So that's really my mindset, just being fearless out there, not caring if I end up on a highlight or if I get crossed up or, they score 30 on me. Like I'm gonna keep coming every single possession for sure
Mhm.
because I'm gonna do what I have to do to win.
With behind the scenes, with Tony Crocker and CJ Miles, being a mentor of sorts, how does that play into your development, do you believe?
Yeah, they've been incredible so far in the season, just with all the mental things and all the recruitment, they've been busting their ass for me for sure. And so I think since both, my coach CJ and Tony Crocker, both of them being professional basketball players, I definitely, take to heart with every piece of advice that they give me because they did it before me and they did it at the highest level. So I definitely
Mhm.
try to take that, to heart. I take everything what they say seriously. But yeah, they've been nothing but great so far in the season, man. So I'm excited for my future and continuing to build that relationship with them for sure.
Hey, so tell me the truth, man. Has any coach in America made you run as much as Tony Crocker?
Nah, not yet. Not yet,
Golly, man.
man.
That dude does conditioning times 10. But like you said, man, you can't argue with it.
Yeah.
It holds true. But what's it like sharing a backcourt with Sean Mondragon?
Bro, it's been incredible. You know, it's he's such a great player. You know, he's so calm. You know, the way I see it, if things aren't going well on my end, I know I can count on him to go get a bucket from me or for him to create for me. And I think we play, I think we complement each other's games very well. You know, on the offensive side, I like to shoot a lot off the dribble. You know, I like to catch and shoot threes. That's really more my game. And he's very explosive and he gets to the basket like at will. So I think
Mhm.
that they just complement each other, those two things. And it's very fun playing with him because he's a great player out there in Corpus. You know, he's been pretty far in the playoffs, so he has that experience and he understands what it takes to win. You know, we're both competitors and we both want to win at the
Mhm.
end of the day. So I think it's just very fun to play with someone that loves the game as much as I do.
Let's talk about that, man. Let's talk about the pride of Rio Grande Valley. I mean, do you when you come to the city? I know you said you knew who was supposed to be what in the different cities. Like, would you say you play with your chip on your shoulder, or like you have something to prove, or what would you say about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, coming from where I come from, there's been some people to do it, but not like how these big cities do it, man. I would say football is pretty big down here. It's a lot bigger. You know, you hear a lot more names definitely go to college from football. So I think that coming from a place that I come from, playing in these big cities and these big events with these big time players, I definitely can't go in there with I got nothing to prove, because I do. I got everything to prove. You know, I walk in the building and not a lot of people really know my name. They don't really know my game, and I kind of just go out there and 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 put on for my city, for my family, for everyone that's ever supported me because I know that they've put a lot into me. They believed in me since day one, and I play with that chip on my shoulder that I'm an underdog. You know,
Hmm.
I'm the nobody in the gym, and I'm coming here to make a statement every single time for sure.
And we've seen you make statements. I remember the first time I heard your name. I remember the first time I saw All District, and I'm not sure if you um, what what the highest accolades were for you. I just know that you were somebody I had to see, and then I have a pretty good relationship with behind the scenes, and I talked with Crocker. Hey man, can I come by and see him? And they opened the doors up, man, and it was really cool. But like, what do those accolades fuel you? Do they make you want to do more? Um, how what are you going into this next season?
Uh, I would say a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
It it fuels me in which I'm defending something. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's my award to lose, and I damn sure ain't gonna lose it. I'm gonna work my ass off to make sure I don't lose it, and that. But then there's I don't want to just be known as a one-time Valley MVP. I want to be known as a back-to-back Valley MVP.
Yeah.
I want to exceed what other people have done. The players before me. So I'll say a little bit of both. It keeps me from being complacent. And it fuels me and it helps me get into a mindset like I'm gonna walk in that gym and I'm gonna do what I do because this is what I do.
Man, I'll be honest with you. Uh, I lost that piece in my notes. I knew you were MVP, but I didn't want to mess it up. So
Yeah.
thanks for helping me out. There's your hockey assist. You know,
There's a hockey assist.
so let's go into breaking down your game a little bit. How do you describe your game to a college coach who's never seen you play?
Uh, I would just say I play with a lot of IQ for sure, and I play
Hmm.
team basketball. I don't care if I have 3 points and I don't care if I have 40. As long
Hmm.
as the team I'm on is up, that's all I'm fine with. That's what I come into games looking for, wins.
Hmm.
And so and if the wins aren't coming and
Hmm.
I'm obviously not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. There's always more that I can do. That's kind of mindset I bring into every game. With me and my dad, we watch a lot of film and the games where I have 3 points and the games where I have 40 points, there's at least we have like a we jot it down. There's at least 20 things I could be doing out there better, and
Mhm.
not a lot of it is like, well, you could have shot this three better, you could have done this move better. A lot of it's the little stuff. You could have been on this rotation in the backside, and you could have gotten that steal. You
Mhm.
could have got there and taken a charge. You could have cut to the basket at this time. So definitely, just I try to play as smart as I can. I just really let the game come to me. If I feel like, at times that I need to get mine and I need to help my team with scoring the ball, I know I'm capable of doing it, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. But if I know that I have a shooter that's hot, I'm gonna keep feeding him. If I know
Mhm.
that I have a mismatch with a big size advantage, I'm gonna get that screen and I'm gonna feed it down there and let my dog eat. So that's just I try to do everything I can to win. I feel like I'm a very coachable player.
Mhm.
I take advice very well, and I want to continue to learn. So I feel like any college coach would definitely help me get there to the highest point that I want to be.
So let's talk about this, man. You're not just athletic, man. You're really tough. Like, what's your why? What keeps you moving? What keeps you grinding? What keeps you driving 2.5 hours, 3 hours to practice?
Uh, my family, man, my family, and just the fact that I'm not I'm not at my end goal yet. I know that I still have a lot more basketball to play, so I feel like if I take these, practices off and I dodge these camps, then I'm not gonna end up, in the position that my family has put me in. My family has just been so supportive. They've done everything that they can. They've sacrificed so much. We've been all over Texas multiple, numerous times. And so every time that, we're taking that 8 hour, drive, I just tell myself, let's make it worth it. I gotta make it worth it. So I would definitely say my family and just the fact that, I'm not where I want to be at right now. I know
Hmm.
that there's always a level above, no matter what level of basketball you play at. So
Hmm.
definitely just chasing greatness for sure.
You know, you've kind of laid the foundation of of your drive, of your why. But I'm just curious, man. Knowing all the things that were said against you, right? From the valley, from this, from that. Was there ever a time where you questioned basketball? Was there ever a time that you thought you might walk away?
No, never. I mean, I love this game too much. That's why I don't let my highs get too high and I don't let my lows get too low. That I feel like if I'm too high up in the clouds, eventually you're gonna fall. But I feel
Mm,
like I can't let myself fall. I gotta
yeah.
keep working no matter what because like I said before, there's always someone that is better than me. There's always someone that's outperforming me. So that's just keeps me something to chase. But no, I've never questioned basketball really. I felt I've built this deep connection and this deep love with the game that, I came this far, can't quit now. I just can't allow myself to.
Let's talk a little bit more about the type of culture that Coach Crocker and Coach Miles have brought about with behind the scenes. Is there something, some lesson or a moment that sticks out to you with them?
Oh yeah, for sure. Our coach, he gave me a pretty good piece of advice after a bad game, and we had won the game. And
Mm,
obviously, I was a little bit down with my performance, and he told the team, but I know he was talking to me. He said, no matter if it's you or no matter if it's him, it's always us.
mm,
It's always us. If he gets 40 points, then that puts us, in a good position to win. So just
mm,
definitely that, like, no matter if I'm having a bad game or no matter if I'm having a good game, no matter if my teammate is on fire, just it's always
mm.
us. We're one team. We're a foundation. So I think that all of us together got to keep the train moving for sure.
Man, I know that I've touched on it a couple of times, but I just, what's it like representing South Texas through that behind the scenes New Balance circuit platform?
It feels special, because like I said, where I come from, you don't really hear a lot about, players, get into that next level a lot. Like I said, there's been greats to do it before, but it's, it's very rare down here. So I feel
Mhm,
like for me to come this far to play on an elite circuit like this and to be competing in a circuit like this, being, top 10 in the rankings and, winning games that we shouldn't have won,
mhm,
it definitely feels very special because I feel like I can help inspire, the next set of youngins that want to hopefully chase me the way that I've chased guys before me, when I was a kid. So I think that, hopefully that just inspires a lot of people down here that, it can be done. That all you
mhm.
need is the right system around you and you just got to have that want and you can you can let your dreams come true for sure.
Man, uh, I'm with you on that. But I do want to say, uh, Jordan, I've been inspired by what you've been doing, and you've got a ways to go. But it has inspired me to spend some more time down in the RGV, and I'm making arrangements to come down there later this summer and really tour it around, man, because I know there's pieces,
Yeah, no
and
doubt.
I tell you, the coach from OFG, Only Fear God,
Yeah.
uh, he and I have talked over the past couple of years about guys that are just don't get the chance, and so that's the basis of everything I do started with finding diamonds in the rough, and so that's what I'm just telling you, man, that's you've spoken to me in a different kind of way. But so all right, let's talk about New Balance. You know, you played on the circuit, New Balance circuit. What's the level of competition like?
It's tough. It's tough for sure. There's a lot of height in that circuit, no doubt. There's a lot of
Hmm.
height. There's a lot of big names out there for sure. I think our circuit is very physical too. There's a lot of big, strong guys out there that are competing for what I'm competing for, which is wins, and
Hmm.
offers, and everyone is going after that one thing, which is
Hmm.
that championship, which is coming up here in July. So I'm just doing my best to prepare for it because I know everyone is coming for our heads because of we've been making some noise and a lot of people didn't really expect us to being our first year and stuff, so we've been
Yeah,
making a lot of noise and climbing up these rankings and stuff. So it's definitely a very very competitive competitive circuit for sure, and it's been a blessing to play in it for sure.
yeah. I will say, um, you know, just the expanse. We've watched the Wisconsin playmakers, and they're a very physical, uh, older brand of basketball. We've seen the team out of Maryland. Um, they play a different type of basketball. Um, how have you had to adjust your game when playing those guys? Um, and how do you feel like that's helped you grow?
uh uh Sorry. Yeah, I actually just had this conversation not too long ago. So down here in the valley, there's not really that much height down here.
Hmm.
So really down here, I'm playing, the three or the two, really just in a
Yeah.
scoring spot. There's plays where I'm getting it down in the post and I'm working, face up, or if I'm backing down and if I have a smaller guy on me. And then when I travel 4 hours up, I'm one of the smaller guys on the court.
Hmm.
But ever since I was little, I've kind of always been, a little shorter. I've always been on
Hmm.
the little shorter side. So I've obviously played the point guard position before. So it was just making that transition from, you're not going to score 25 points a game in the circuit. You're going to get your buckets for sure. Like I'm of course gonna be, eager to score, but
Hmm.
really it's just been being a more playmaker type of thing because I'm not gonna play a three, I'm not gonna play a two in college basketball, and my goal is professional basketball. I'm gonna be playing the
Hmm.
one. So definitely just watching a lot of film on great point guards. One of my favorite point guards is John Wall, and
Hmm.
watching a lot of him, just seeing how fast he plays and his playmaking ability and the flashy passes and the way that he has that that want and that drive. So
Hmm.
just adjusting my game to the big man's game. To this that's what it is. Basketball is a big person's game, but if I'm
Hmm.
able to stay on there with my intensity, my playmaking ability, and my defense, I've been able to survive up to now, and I've been able to succeed. So hopefully, I can just keep that up.
Yeah. So what kind of, not limiting yourself, but what type of program, what type of offense, what type of defense do you think most fits your game or you're wanting to play in?
Definitely a very fast paced type of team. I love. I think the easiest baskets come when we get scored on and the other team kind of turns around and they start jogging back because it's the
Mm,
third quarter and they're tired. And I'm telling
yeah.
my teammate, yo, let's go. And I'm getting the
Hmm.
ball out, one pass, one score. Those are just the easiest buckets because everyone is tired. And the way that my
Hmm.
dad's always told me, if I'm that tired, imagine how imagine how much they're tired. So just
Yeah.
definitely just the kind of a run and gun type of thing, where we're pushing the ball out and then we're getting a rebound and we're going, they score, we're going. If there's nothing there, then we can set something up, get things going. And then on the defensive side, high pressure. That's something that obviously I love to do. I love to pick up guys 94 feet you know, and I have to. I gotta do it. I love to do
Hmm.
it. I love getting those 8-second calls. I love getting the 5-second calls.
Yeah.
I love getting those inside hand steals, playing in the gap, getting a steal and giving it to my dog and letting him punch it.
Yeah.
Uh I just, I love that fast paced type of basketball. Something I'm trying to bring more down here to the valley from, obviously up north to
Yeah.
San Antonio. So
Yeah.
definitely that for sure. Just, playing very fast, very physical, getting out on the break, stuff like that.
All right, man. Last one. You get the opportunity to look dead in the camera. What do you have to say to people that doubted you?
Keep doubting. Keep doubting, man.
Hey, that wraps it up here. That's Jordan Bustamante, explosive guard, physical competitor, and one of the RGV's finest. Coaches, if you're not watching him yet, it's time to start. For everyone, stay locked in to the One Eye Scout. Follow us on Twitter at the One Eye Scout. Subscribe to the podcast and tap in weekly for the watch list. Hey Jordan, man, I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Have fun and I'll see you probably this weekend.
All right, catch you.
All right, later.